Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room at Prince George, British Columbia. This is the last video, the thrilling conclusion of the battle in the bush. We're getting started about an hour earlier today because we want to make sure we get this game done. There's only 6 turns today. Yesterday we played 7 turns. But shit, what did we finish off at midnight or 11:30 or something like that? And we played all day too. It was a hard slog all day. But like after we play here, we're also going to have to add up the points and everything like that. And these guys got to wash the windows before they go to bed. So maybe fix the roof. Anyway, so if you want to know how everything got to this point, go watch the first 2 videos, part 1 and part 2. This is part 3. I'll just go through really quickly what's going on. Rank Carcass is the Axis, and he's playing War Plan C, and I don't know that he's going to use them because against the British Navy like he was going to, but this is his last chance because the American Navy here is coming across the water this turn, and so he might not get another chance to. Like he'll have one more chance to, but then the Americans will have a chance to hit him back. If he hit the British Navy now, then he could escape if he had any left, and that's a big if, because the British have got lots of boats here. So we'll see what he does here. I think he might also go after the Russians over there. His brother's pissing him off. There was this one thing that happened 10 years ago, and you know, he just won't let it go. And Britain's taken solid control over Egypt and Cairo over here again, but Italy has got control over the Med and Africa, like solid control over the Med and Africa. Italy is controlling the Turkish player as a separate country, so they're doing well. But Italy's made it all the way down here, and over here, Calcutta is very secure. We had a battle down here which lost everything that the Anzac had for Navy. The stuff that they have now is stuff that they just bought. So they lost a couple planes and stuff in here, but they also killed a battleship and a destroyer and damaged these 2 and a fighter. And yeah, Japan just attacked the Netherlands this past turn. And most of China's gone, but not all of it. Partisans are still doing some damage in there. And what else? Yeah, these guys are pretty secure down here as well. Like they've got the fortification, they've got the coastal gun in case Japan decided to attack down here. And this Navy here for the Americans has moved up. They've taken the Marshall Islands, so they're on the move. But they've only got 2 transports in there. They've got a couple more transports back there, so they're going to move those up as well. These guys have been fighting back and forth over the border over here between Japan and Russia. This is where the major fight is right here, though, in the game. And as you would expect, in most games, that's what it is. Like you can see, Rank Carcass is just setting up his Germans for his attack. Where are you attacking in here?
I'm attacking a few places across. I'm going to take these planes out here if I can.
Okay.
They're a little lightly defended.
And what about that Plan C Navy? What are they doing?
They're either going to amphibiously assault, or they're going to go do a kamikaze run against the British and lose against all your 6
So you're
scrambled
going to flip
planes.
a midget and see what happens?
Pretty much.
Okay. Anyway, we'll be back. We'll see what he does. We'll see you guys after. And we're finished that round. So you look at the Eastern Front there, and there is a lot less units here. I mean, tons of carnage. I can't even count up how many things were lost and changed hands. The Germans, they kicked some ass, and then the Russians came back and they kicked some ass. And you know, like everybody was blitzing. Like there was so much stuff down here, and the Germans came down, and then they decided not to blitz. So then the Russians took them back, and then they blitzed, and so they took out Romania there. And so they can. There's nothing in behind there, and they got 2 factories there. There's nothing in behind to stop them. These guys are going to have to come down here and get them because they can also blitz to Turkey. Like they've got. There are 3 heavy tanks, and they can blitz, and they attack at, what is it, 8? Holy crap. So then, yeah, Russia's got a lot of stuff up here, but not a lot of units left. Like it looks like they do, but they're all planes, right? They've got a couple of dudes, there's a tank, couple of dudes, and this small tank. That's all they got. There was a big battle that just happened down here between Turkey and Russia, and Turkey won that battle, but not by much. So Turkey has thinned out a great deal too. Turkey used to have a lot more units on it than it does, but they also stretched their legs over to here, although that's not worth anything. But it has opened up another front for the Russians to try and stop. The Russians managed to take this thing back. That's been a thorn in their side. So they got that one back, and so the battle is going on up here. Nothing is really happening in China except for partisan actions. Like the Japanese just lost $5 that turn because of the partisans blowing up railways and shit. Or actually, no, they were taking out their money. It was their supplies. But the Japanese they decided to come up this way. So they're going to spill over the mountains and open up yet another front on the Russians. So the Russians are just starting to leak now. They looked really good a couple of turns ago, but it's really getting thin for them, as it is for these guys over here. Like, they don't have much on the front over here. I tell you, if this guy could carpet bomb, this guy has done on, I don't know how many carpet bombing missions in this game. He has not hit one damn thing. I'm telling you, like at least 6, 7 carpet bombing missions, this guy hasn't hit anything. If he could take 6 or 7 units off of those, you know, like 1 per carpet bomb, then that would be a huge difference. So we still haven't resolved any Navy battle here. Like he still has the option of going out with the Navy, or he could continue kicking Russia in the nuts. But now that Russia's down on their knees here, maybe he will decide to come out and go after the British boats. But the American Navy is down there now. I need to put a pie on here, but they've taken out Portugal because there's a port there, so they can go from here to here and from here to here one turn. But then, you know, like they're going to have to come over this way, right? They're not going to be able to get a port over here because anyone they get is going to liberate, or, you know, it'll be the British port. And unlike Axis and Allies, you don't use somebody else's facilities in this game. They don't jack you up and go further, or air bases, you can't scramble from them. So, oh, and we're just changing some roundels in there. He's reminding me that that's Russian. Oh, the Italians took that one out. I didn't see that. Yeah, I was busy taking my American turn while the Italians were going. So, what else are we doing in here? The Japanese, they came out with a bunch of blockers because the Americans had moved up to the Marshall Islands here. So they had 3 blockers here, but the Americans have the advanced submarines. So they were just going to put the advanced submarines out in the plains, but then they thought, you know what, why don't I put blockers out? Because this Navy over here could hit the American Navy. And the American Navy's not all that strong yet. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there that doesn't hit very hard, right? So, and they don't have a lot of carriers. They've only got 1 carrier in there. So their Navy isn't that tough, and so I put the blockers out there. What I'm hoping with the American Navy, until they get a bit stronger, is that they can catch the Japanese fleet, like half of it here and half of it there. But Japan definitely has enough more boats on this side than the Americans do, so they got to be careful. But these guys are keeping up their sub spam. Like, they come out here and they took out a destroyer down here. The Japanese have just about got all the islands. There's just one island left here, and that's it. But these guys are just going to keep spamming their subs down here. And they've got this fighter that can take part in it, but it's pretty limited range for them. Unless these subs live, then, you know, then they can stretch out a bit. Nothing happening yet in Calcutta, although Calcutta is thinking that they might just start moving out a bit. They're not sure yet. We'll see what the Japanese do. The Japanese go before them, but they just bought 4 mechs there. They've got improved factories now, so each factory can produce 2 things, so they can produce 4 things in here. And so they bought 4 mechs, and they got the tanks, and they got some tanks over here, and they got some dudes up here. So they might start opening up another front on Japan here, depending on what Japan does. Like, if Japan is loading up to come after Calcutta, then they're not going to do that, right? It just depends on what they're given. Down here, the British are stretching out over here. They're trying to take out some of the Italians. The Italian had come all the way down here. So again, the factory could produce 2 things. They put a mech and a tank on down here. They're going to take this little horsey out as soon as they possibly can, and then they're gonna clean that up. You see the German roundels here. That's because these are Portuguese territories, right? And the Americans had taken out Portugal there. So that means the Germans automatically, that's what all these roundels are, tiny little Portuguese islands everywhere. I think the Japanese even got one over there somewhere, I can't remember where, I'm not going to look for it. What's the Italian Navy doing over there? I'm going to have to take a look at that. Do you have any transports in there? Just two? Two transports. That's worrisome. You sneaky little bastard. You see that? Well, I wasn't looking. He was putting transports on the board. I gotta watch this guy. He's not cheating or anything, but he's trying to slip one in on me there. Gotta watch that. And then the Americans after that, they put 4 transports on over there, and they got enough stuff for 4 transports. So those transports will be going up to Europe, and then 4 more will be coming across, and then some more will be going down, probably 4 more, and they will continue to build ships over here. But of course, it's going to have to go a little bit slowly until they have the complement. You know how I like my floating bridges, right? So then once the Americans build a floating bridge over there, then they'll start building up stronger in the Pacific over there to keep the Japanese down. Eventually there's going to be a fight over there with all the boats. I can smell it. I've got an Iowa class battleship. He's got, I think he's 1 space away over there. No, he's a couple spaces away with his Yamato class battleship, which is an even heavier battleship than the Iowa class. And that's about it. Russia's not looking too good down in south there, so they're going to have to address that. For now, he's looking at his brother there. He's clenching his fist. Shit's going to happen. It's about to get real here. Stay tuned. Okay, so things are slowing down a bit on the eastern front there. Everybody kicked the shit out of each other, and so there's a lot of dead guys laying around, and they got stomped into the ground. But there's a few troops left. Obviously, Russia has a whole crap load of planes left. Germany's got a bunch of planes. There's just not a lot of ground troops in there, so the fight is still going on, but it's kind of like trench warfare in World War I. Neither side is getting the better of the other because of everything else that's going on. Like Germany's got to worry about the other side over there, and Russia's got to worry about this side, and down here with Turkey. They can't just, one guy can't just pile everything there and go for it, right? So you see over here, rank carcass, it's Germany's turn. Where are we here? Let's move the calendar along. So we're in 1944, January 1944. Now Moose had lots of troops down here, like he had planes and everything, but then the Italians came down and took them out. So the Russians have 2 tanks and 2 dudes down here, and the Italians are moving in on them. They're fixing to take out Spain like that. The Americans, I think I showed you before, they landed in Portugal. So that's where they're using to get across there, and they got something to carpet bomb with, but just like the British say, they can't roll 2s to save their life when it comes to carpet bombing. Now down here, the British have regained control of most of Africa. So all of the Italian roundels are off on this side. The only thing that is Italian controlled now is these ones over here. So the British still got some work to do, or somebody does anyway. So the Med is still fully in control of the Italians. The Turks seem to have dealt a blow over here though. Like there was a big fight in Transcaucasia, and the Russian tanks lost out there. So Turkey's kind of in control at the bottom down there. You can see all the Turkish roundels, like they've made it all the way up to western Kazakhstan. So Moose is going to have to get going here. Over here in Calcutta, the British started moving some things out, expecting a land fight over here. But you never know. Like these guys can scoot around. Those boats can all scoot around and attack. The British kind of felt though that they had enough stuff back here that they could have some stuff out here and still defend Calcutta. But we'll see. That might be wrong. We'll see, right? And down here, these guys just keep buying 2 subs and losing 2 subs. There was a fight in here. At least they killed a couple of destroyers this time. Usually they're losing the battle, but with the help of this plane here, they were able to at least 2 for 2 there that time. The Americans are moving up fast. First of all, they moved to here with their Navy, and then they've moved to here with their Navy. That's this Navy back here. And they've just put on another Iowa class battleship, and they've got advanced submarines, so there's another advanced sub. So the Japanese keep putting up blockers, and then the Americans keep taking the blockers out. So it's not much left to block down there. They're going to have to do something. The Japanese outnumber the Americans, so the Americans, that's why they keep taking the blockers out and losing the subs, to keep blockers from getting them, right? So at some point in time, this is going to end, and the Americans and the Japanese are going to have a big fight. So we'll see what happens there. The partisans just took $9 off of the Japanese in China there. That's just the nationalist partisans. They rolled really well, finally, for once in the game. What's going on elsewhere? I'll let you take a little look at the northern part of the board over there. Nothing's really happening up there. They keep fighting over Leningrad, like that dude that's in the water there. I don't have a ship for that, but that's where his War Plan Z ships are. He keeps coming over with his 2 transports and grabbing guys and going back to Leningrad, and then the Russians will take Leningrad back. So it's just like down south there. It's just a seesaw, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. And the British, of course, are hating that, and the Americans. They don't want those guys to kill each other. They just want them to be friends. I mean, they're brothers. They shouldn't hurt each other. Go ahead, hit him, hit him, hit him! So that's the way it looks here in Prince George. We'll be back. Okay, so as you can see there, Dirty Mike and the boys are having a soup kitchen in the back of the car there in Moscow. So that's going to be fun for them. I hope they have a lot of fun. You can see there's not a lot of stuff left on the Western Front there. They decided as brothers that they were just going to love each other, and it's going to be a long ride home if they keep throwing money at each other, because I was going to kick their ass if they didn't, both of them. So they had to do something. So you look over here, and the Italians have posted up over here. They're just waiting for the ball so they can slam dunk it on me. But half of France is gone now, and the Americans are just piling a shit ton of stuff in there. And they got more stuff coming back here in Portugal, and more stuff coming, and there'll be stuff coming every turn, right? But there's only 3 turns left in the game. The Americans just carpet bombed Paris, and finally, they did something. And all the carpet bombing I've done in this game, I hit one thing with, I think, the British. And this time, finally, the Americans hit 3 on one shot. So they took out 3 units in Paris there. You can see that there's a lot of stuff missing in there. You're thinking, where the hell is that stuff? Well, it just looks that way because I finally talked Rank Carcass into attacking me with his War Plan Z stuff. He was just being a pussy over there. And I said, you're going to drive all the way back to Edmonton. You drove all the way here, through the mountains, you know, like through the snow and the driving rain, and it was just the hardest thing you ever did. And then you're going to spend $112 on boats, and then you're not going to fucking do anything with them. And he goes, okay. And it wasn't even his turn, and he started battle boarding. So we had to finish the last turn. So there's a shit on the battle board over there, right? And then I got my stuff on the battle board over here. So I had to goad him into it. Nothing happened over here. The British are taken back, like they're really expanding over here. All those tanks that they've had down here, like they've moved here, and the French hadn't done anything for a few turns, so they had a few bucks. So they put some colonial infantry down there. They're hoping that maybe this turn or the next they can get this place back. That'll be nice for them if they do, and maybe by the end of the game they'll have Paris back. We'll see. There's an awful lot of Italians in there, and the Turkish are still hanging on. Nobody's taken them out yet, but now the Russians are starting to take over there. Like you can see, there's only militia, so they don't even have the ability to attack there. And he's lost a lot of his light tanks that were up in there. So that's one of the reasons that it cooled off over there, was because Russia had to turn around and go swat all these mosquitoes back here, right? Now over here, the Americans have got 2 Iowa class battleships, 2 battleships, and then another battleship up there. So they're not doing too bad, but they don't really have that much air support, right? They've only got 1 fleet carrier. They don't have any small carriers, and they've got this 1 plane here. That's the Black Sheep Squadron. So they're plus and minus on attack or plus on attack and defense. So, you know, like they're not as tough as the Japanese, because the Japanese, they've got their Yamato there and they've got a few boats there. This is just transports over here, but there you see the fleet marker there. There's a whole bunch of them on that task force marker card over there. So I predict that these guys will get into a scrap by the end of the game, but we keep throwing out blockers in front of each other. But at some point, one guy's going to not get his blocker, you know, like both of them are going to die. And then there you go, bam, somebody's going to get punched in the nose. We'll see who it is. Not much happening up top there between the Russians and the Japanese. There's just not a lot of units built up there. I think probably because of the Turkish drew a lot of units down in here for them, and then the Japanese are just piling stuff down in here. They're moving towards Calcutta, right? But then in the British have a whole bunch of stuff in here as well, and they've got Calcutta stocked right up here. Like I think they've got yeah, they got 20 guys in there, and that's just the dudes. They've also got a pile of militia. There's a red chip underneath there. They got an anti-aircraft gun and some tanks, so they're ready. They were going to attack these guys last time, but it's really difficult when you're attacking into a mountain like that, because everything you have is going to be -1 unless you have mountain infantry, which they don't, right? So that's not working. You know what really didn't work this game is buying all these subs. Like it should have worked, but they just kept missing. You know, I kept going up there and just kept missing every shot I took. So they barely took anything off, so that was no good. I'd have been better off just, you know, saving all my money and, you know, buying 18 carriers instead of 400 submarines or something. I don't know. I bet you I bought 20 this game. Anyway, so that's about it. So what do you want to do? Do you guys want to watch us? Do you want to watch us do this battle here? Yes. Okay. Well, Moose is going to hold the camera. Okay. So you're going.
All right. That one of the switches, right?
That's a Messerschmitt. Yeah, you can decide.
Tactical.
Tactical?
Yeah.
Okay.
So target select of 3 or 4?
Yeah, 3. No, the 4 is the Italian one down there.
So I'll roll that separate then.
Okay.
6. That's a hit. And I'll roll the battleship there at an 8. That's another hit. And the two cruisers in there at 7.
Heavy cruisers, eh?
Yes. 1 hit.
Okay.
And then the fighter, just for the air superiority round, is a miss. Oh no, that's a 7, that fighter, right?
Yep.
So that's a hit. And the tactical, let's see if I can get a selection. Nope, but that's a hit.
So you hit with the fighter?
I did.
Okay.
I'm going to roll my other 4 regular fighters here at 6. And that is nothing. All misses.
You're done?
No. And then a regular cruiser at 6, miss. Heavy destroyer at 5, miss. 3 destroyers, nothing. This is not going too well.
There's a bunch of subs there too.
And 5 subs. And 1 hit.
1 hit. I'll take the first set off. That's all you got?
Yeah, I got 5 hits and 1 plane on top of that. That's it.
You suck balls.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'll just start at this end and work my way this way. So I got 2 at 1. Misses. And I got 3 at 2 with my torpedo boat destroyers. Misses. And I got 3 subs at 3. 1, 2 hits. They can't be planes.
So 2?
Yep. And destroyers, I got 5 of those. At 4. 1, 2, 2 more. And then these guys, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 at 6. Let's go to Prince George. It'll be fun.
Remember to roll your fighter separate for the superiority.
Oh, right. Yeah, thanks. So, 2, 4. Okay, the fighters are going to be the blue ones, okay? And these are at 6, right? So two fighters hit.
All right.
And then one other one. One cruiser hit. It's probably the French cruiser. You've been sitting there waiting all day to do something. Oh, make up your mind. Okay, and then this fighter here is also at 7, so you might lose another plane. Yeah, there you go, another plane down. And then I got 3 jet fighters and 2 battleships. So that's 5. At 8.
And the fighters also fight.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's just do them first. 1, 2 more fighters down. And then 2 battleships. And then 2 more hits.
2 fighters down, or 2 planes down, and then 2 more hits.
Yep.
Alright, that's.
Are you stopping?
What do you got left?
I got
everything.
just about everything.
You got a pile of everything left.
Look here, let's just scoop this up. I got just about everything left.
Yep, and that's what I got left. After I lost these subs.
Oh, what the hell? Take another shot at me. What's the worst that can happen?
The worst that could happen.
Air superiority's over.
Yeah, air superiority's over, and I got no planes left.
Come on, I want to kill that businessman. I don't blame you if you wanna run away now, but I'm still gonna catch you though.
No,
you can't go
I
very
can't
far.
go far enough, so let's just do it. Yeah. So air superiority, that's tactical for 8. That's a hit. Battleship, miss. And 2 heavy cruisers. One's a hit. And tactical miss. Oh, look at that! Eh? Just can't hit anything. Miss at the 6. 1 at 5. That's a hit. That's 3 hits all around. 3 regular destroyers, 1 more hit, so 4 hits, and a 7. That's the 5th hit. 5 hits. That's it.
So I'll take these 5. Wait a minute. Let's damage the battleships and keep the subs. So we'll lose these 3 destroyers. Okay. So here, wait. These guys are over here. All right. So I got 1 at 1. Missed. And 2 at 3. 1 hit. And 5 at 4. 1. Just 1. And nothing at 5. I got, what was that again? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I thought it was 9. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I lost a fire, that's why. So 8.
Just 2 hits so far, right?
1, 2. Oh, you're getting lucky.
2.
Look at you. Look at you go.
Yeah.
And I got, these are actually over here, so I got 1 at 7. Hit. And I got 5 at 8. Holy crap, only 2. There we go. So now these are over here. And these are off.
I'm just going to lose these ships if I run away.
Yeah, I'm going to chase you down for sure, because you can only go 1 space away. You can't make it into the Baltic.
Can I make my aircraft take off?
Where?
Can my aircraft take off?
Yeah, actually, you can. I think you can in the rules.
You can withdraw your planes.
Yeah.
They're out, but these guys can't run away.
Actually, you know what? You can retreat, because then I can chase your boats down, but your planes can still get away. You're probably better off doing that.
Yeah, let's do that. So yeah. I took a damage on this one, so.
Oh, that's gotta hurt. Is that just a regular capital ships, like 2 hits?
Yeah, I think so. It didn't say anything special about it, so. War Plan Z, what a great plan.
Sucks to be you.
I should have done this a long time ago, but
you could have bought a lot of tanks
all
for that.
those planes.
All right then. So you've seen how that worked out. Not very well. And even if it did, even if he had taken me any better, see what I did. I went with the plan of instead of buying all these ships, I bought the planes, right, and I had 2 air bases, and I kept. I really wanted to move that fleet out of there. You know, like I couldn't use it all game, so he kept me there all game. But I kept it there because I had 2 air bases touching that, and I was able to cover it with 6 fighters, including those. You see how devastating these jet fighters are, right? The 3 at 8 there. It's just like rolling battleships, but they're half the price of a battleship, a little more than half the price. So anyway, heading off for the last 3 rounds here. Okay, so I dispatched the rest of the Warplan Z ships over here, and I brought in every plane I had, so he had no appetite for scrambling. So I didn't bring them all though, because I wanted to bring them down, and it's time to clear the med out down there. So I've taken my task force down there with all the ships in it, and gonna do that. The Americans, last time they carpet bombed, they hit 3 guys. This time they hit 4 guys with this plane. I love this plane, and he just kicked the living shit out of the Italians. But the Italians and the Germans are holding here. They're throwing everything they got over here. I don't know why. Moose isn't moving up on him.
I didn't have any troops last time.
Oh yeah. Okay. Anyway, and also there is nobody left on the continent of Africa. It's been vacated, so France has that back, and the Turkey still, like, nothing's happening with Turkey right now. Britain, aside from having all of Africa, they've got a clear path all the way over to Calcutta there, because they've got everything in the Middle East. And the Japanese are encroaching though. The Japanese have moved up on them, but now they were able to move up, so they'll be able to hit the Japanese back, but they're not going to be able to make any headway. We're getting ready for the big clash. You've seen the last couple turns there where we just kept throwing up blockers back and forth. Well, that's not going to happen this time, because Rankarki just said, fuck it. That's his blocker now. This is his blocker right here. Because we only got 2 turns left after this. So it's going to be a battle. It's going to be these guys over here against these guys over here. And, oh, I forgot to move something here. Hang on a second. This guy is going right here. There we go. Just to make sure none of these guys make it down.
Oh, nice move.
Nice move. So it's just this against this. There we go. And then I've got these advanced subs, so I got a bunch of those and a couple of those, and I got my transports out of there because just in case they lost everything, I still got all these transports here. And this guy's drunk and swimming in the water over here. Yeah, I threw in since those friggin' subs can't hit anything on offense, I threw them in the battle there, or where the battle's going to be, and I got a couple more down there. That's all they bought the whole game. After the first couple turns, after they got the land all squared away and everything they wanted there. So nothing's happening anywhere else. America's got a floating bridge. It takes 4 groups of transports to do it in this game, though. That kind of sucks balls, but what can you do, right? And then over here, yeah, that's there's still Big Mike and the boys are still having a soup kitchen here. Although some of the guys broke off and they're having their own little soup kitchen over here. So yeah, he's got lots of planes, but not as many ground troops. But you know what? I think he's got enough ground troops, and then he's got lots of money now that he's going to be able to get, you know, maybe up to Germany here by the end of the game, if things go well for him. Because Germany is having to keep things back here, like otherwise they're just going to get swallowed up on the Western Front. So we're going to squeeze them now and see how far we can get. I think that Russia's going to get quite far. So some of it's going to, like, they just weren't able to take this out. That's kind of a shame for them, because otherwise they could win the game. You know, they make it a ways into there. And then if they had this back and they had more stuff than the Japanese have over here, and winning the Civil War down there in Spain, that would have given them a lot of points, right? But this is kind of throwing a fuck into them over here, having these tanks that rolled over the border here. And the Turks haven't helped out. they've been pestering them all game. It looks like he's got the Turks under wraps over there, but you know, it's getting kind of late on for that, right? If I was him, I'd just roll into Turkey there and say screw you and just go take them all. See how he likes that. Brotherly love. So what else do we got? Anything? Anything? Yeah, not really. Not really. That's about it. I'll just take a nice slow pass over here. The you can see the Italians and the Italians and the Turks have lots of planes, so they're hard to take out. Like I'd love to just go in there and take Rome, but they've got a 6-plane scramble at this point right now, kind of like what I set up over here against that Warplan Z. They got 6 planes that could scramble against their boats here, so those boats are kind of entrenched there. Not only that, but they've got a blocker out here, even though I've got 2 navies that can come into the Med. So that's where we are. We're going to go get some dinner and come back and finish this game off. Holy crap, that was an epic turn. It was unbelievable. It just so many turns and twists. My head is just spinning here. So what happened there? God, where do I even begin? You can see Paris is still in the hands of the Germans, but there's nobody on there. The Americans went in and they took it down to nothing, but they lost their tank on the last roll. They managed to take out Vichy France because the Italians all vacated there. The reason they did that is because the British came up. Like it's starting to get gamey now, right? Because we're all trying to get our points, and there's only 1 turn left after this. This is the second to last turn. So the British took out 2 things from their homeland. That would have, you know, like if they need all of their homeland to get a point, right? So that's one thing. And so the Italians had to scramble back down there and get that, and they had a whole bunch of stuff because of the Turks, right? The Turks, I think they had a whole bunch of planes anyway. I think they've lost 5 planes here in the last turn. The Italians have, oh no, here's a couple here. Anyway, at least 3 planes they've lost. What else? Yeah, so they vacated this spot. So the Americans went up and took the Germans out of here and here. And what else? That's not even the biggest thing. That's just a sidebar of what happened in this game. So the British went into the Med there because they wanted to have more capital ships than the Italians. And then the Italians took them out, and pretty handily too, because of all of those planes that they had. They weren't able to take much off them. But the American Navy is split up. They don't have a task force marker anymore. So the American Navy there can go into the Med. And that battleship there split off. That American battleship that Detroit painted up so nicely for me. That battleship split off, and he's going to be able to make it to the Pacific on the last turn of the game. And that's a big deal because of what happened over here. This was just epic. So there was, last time you seen, there was this 2 big navies, right? The Japanese Navy was here and the American Navy was here. The Japanese kicked the living shit out of the American Navy. Like beat the crap out of them. And they had an undamaged Yamato. They had 2 damaged battleships. They had 2 damaged carriers. Fleet carriers with they were fully loaded. In this game you can damage carriers and still land planes on them. And they had a bunch of other shit, like they had I think 3 carriers, or sorry, 3 cruisers. Might have had some destroyers or whatever. At least the 3 carriers or cruisers anyway. And they had a bunch of yeah, anyway, so then, you know, like they had all that, and the Americans had lost all of their capital ships, so we figured for sure the Japanese were going to get a point, right? But in this game, submarines are targeted hits when you roll 1s. And I've been whining all game about how shitty my Anzac, I've been putting 2 on every turn, right? So I went up with 2 of the Anzacs, and they knocked out a fleet carrier, a damaged fleet carrier, because it was targeted. You know, he couldn't just lose a cruiser if he wanted. I said, nope, I'm taking that carrier right there. And so I took one of the 2 carriers off, and because he was in a zone where the Americans owned it, they had no place to land. So they lost a carrier and 2 planes, and then they killed the 2 subs. Then the Americans had a whole, what did they have? They had 5 advanced submarines and 5 destroyers came down, and they attacked that fleet. Remember, this thing was undamaged. they took out, like they did just, I think they got 4 targeted hits. So they were able to take off the battleships and the other fleet carrier, and they took this down 2 hits. So this one is damaged, and he needs to go and hide because I've got more stuff there. He can get away. There's no problem for him. He can get away, no problem. But anyway, nobody's going to get that point because I showed you that battleship over there. He's going to make it to the Pacific. This battleship is in the Pacific, and so there you go. That's going to be a tie there, so nobody's going to get that point. In here, the Japanese, they took a big force and came down here. They were going to take Malay. They were going to show everybody how tough they were. My militia beat the crap out of them. So that happened. And they're still sitting there. The Japanese, they only had 2 guys left. They had to move them out of there. These guys came up and took this spot first, and then took this spot on the last turn. These guys have been moving up, so they're going to come in here and take whatever they can out on the last turn. And what else? The British, they got nobody left down here to attack, so they bought a couple of transports. So they brought transports up, and they took this out, and then they brought transports from outside of the Med over here, and they took this out. This is when the Italians were still up here, and then the Italians came in and quite handily took out the British fleet there. So the Italians just ruled the British fleet in this game. Like the Germans could hardly fucking touch them with their warplanes. And the Italians beat them twice. The huge navies that they had, they beat them twice. Oh my God. So anyway, so we got the last turn coming up. I don't think, like not much is happening in there. There's just, because neither guy has got much stuff in there. So not much is happening. Moose is trying to get east of this spot right here. If he gets something east of that spot right there, then he could get a point, right? And then over here, this is another place where points are on the border there. And Rank Carcass on the last turn just took out this one and this one here, and so that made a big difference. It doesn't look like the Russians are going to be able to get a point there. They'll be lucky if they don't give up a point on that one, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the Japanese will get that point there. Anyway, I'm out of breath, and I was out of breath before I turned the camera on. I'm telling you, like we rolled so much. It was like 4 hours ago the last time I made a video, because we made that and then we went out for dinner and then we came back and we rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled. Like it took us a while just to clean up the board just to make a video here because we had ships everywhere. 10 ships.
ships, everything.
Yeah, everything, yeah. All kinds of capital ships. Like we were all targeting each other's capital ships to try to get them off the board. So nothing, like there's nobody developing weapons. That's not going to get you a point anymore. The money's changed hands a little bit, but that's nothing. So here we go. Last turn. It's getting late too, so we're gonna be hurting tomorrow, but here we go. And that's the game, folks. That was an awesome game. We were just talking about that. The game just ended, and you know, it wasn't just a really good game. These guys have been playing for years. They said it was a pretty good game. Like it was much better than average, and so that's I'm happy about that. I'm happy I didn't completely embarrass myself. Now we don't know who won yet. We haven't added up the score. I wanted to take a look around and show you the board, show you what happened before we add up the score, so you can take a look and see what you think, who you think won, and then we'll get to it. But first of all, let's get to what happened there. Look at France there. France is completely liberated. That's what happened at the end of the game. The last thing the Americans did was liberated France. They did try to take Western Germany up there too, but like it was the last turn of the game, and so they just threw some stuff at it. It didn't work. But that was so Germany stopped them there. It would have been nice to take one place off of the homeland of Germany, but it didn't work. What else happened? The British came down with a whole bunch of planes and took out the Italian Navy. The British finally had their revenge on the Italians. And also they still have 2 places on their home country. Sicily is their home country, and Taranto is obviously their home country. It's on the Italian peninsula. so that they're probably not going to get many points. And America slipped this aircraft carrier in there. Last thing they did as well as slipping that battleship over there into the Pacific. And so that's a tie. We know that nobody's going to get a point for having the most battleships in there, but America is going to get a point for having a capital ship, whereas Italy doesn't have one in there. So that's a point. These guys, they fought it out big time over here, trying to take the last of the points. First Germany went a ways, and then Russia came back, and he even took out Sweden just so he could knock them down a point. Like they were getting a bonus of 3, and so he took the southern part of Sweden out, so to give the Germans only 2 points instead. But because he was trying to take his income down as far as he possibly could. It was a real dick move. It was really greasy, but it was awesome. I was laughing my ass off. Anyway, not much change down here because there was nothing left to attack, right? But the Russians did go into Turkey as far as they could, and Turkey they tried to attack back, and they didn't get very far. So over here, they were able to stop Japan from taking a point here as well, just by getting into this blue spot here. That's going to, when we add it up, that's going to take a point off of Japan. He did a really good move though. He took a couple of transports off me here, and he took a transport off me here, and then I came up and got the sub that took the transport, because that I was going to move these guys over here, and that would have given me another point, but that didn't, or taken a point from him, but that didn't happen. So that is it for the Japanese Navy right there, what you see. You got the Yamato battleship and just a few smaller boats, right? Like just destroyers and transports, and not even very many planes left. You see the Americans like, so what's the biggest thing I could buy? Because they weren't going to get to use them anyway, right? And there was a couple of small battles out here. So the Americans don't have much either. Like they've got these little boats here, and they've got a few transports, and they got a couple of boats back in the homeland there. And Anzac, oh, they bought 2 subs. That was a surprise, huh? Yeah. Who's seen that one coming?
I never would have guessed. 2 subs?
I don't know, man. And Japan is going to get a point up there. We know that because they got way more stuff than the Russians. They got over twice the number of stuff up there. So anyway, it was an awesome game. I had a great time. It wasn't just about the game either. Like I made a couple of new friends. And we had a lot of laughs. We ate good meals. We went out for dinner tonight. They bought me dinner. That was really nice of them. And we went for ice cream. That was cool.
Yeah.
My mouth was burning because I had some Cajun whatever, and so we went for ice cream. So that was cool. And yeah, just had a great time and making new friends and everything. And someday I'll go to the other side of the mountains and play a game with him. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up right now. I'll make a longer video. I'm going to leave this set up. And then one day this week, I'm going to make another video. I know you're probably waiting to find out who won the prizes on my contest. And I was busy all weekend. Like we played all the time from just after they got here on Friday till now, and it's like 10:30 at night, and I got to go to work in a few hours. Right, I'm working day shift tomorrow, so I'm going to try to make that video tomorrow night or the next night, and I'll pull a couple of winners, and somebody will win those prizes. Anyway, we're gonna go and total all this stuff up and let you know who won. I forgot there was one more thing. How did this war end? Oh yeah. Boom! I win! General Haggerty! I shook up the world! I shook up the world! I'm a bad man. Okay, I'm back. It's been 2 days since we finished our game, and I'm really sorry that I didn't upload it right away, or that I didn't even get to it last night. I tell you, I was so tired. We started playing, I think it was about 1:30 Friday afternoon, and we finished at 11:30 on Sunday night, and I had to work, had to get up at 5:30 Monday morning, so I didn't have time to upload it or to finish off. Like we did count and to see who had won, But after that, I just said, I'm sorry guys, but I'm going to bed. And I was gonna make the video the next day, which was yesterday, but I didn't. Anyway, I'm still in my work clothes now. I was so tired last night too. Once I got home from work, I sat down on the couch and then I fell asleep, and I woke up and I fell asleep again, and I got up and went to bed. So here I am. It's right after work on Tuesday, and I'll finish this off. I know some people have been waiting for this video to come out. Okay, well, let's just take a look at the score here. The score wasn't a surprise for me. So here's the winner here. Here, let me just stand back there. Russia won, and they had 7 points, and that wasn't a surprise for me. What did surprise me was that the Axis had more points than the Allies. If you look at the board here, there's no way that if you were playing straight up that the Allies were going to be able to hold up to the Axis here. Like they've got all of France back here, and you look at how few units that Germany has on the board in total. Like there's a few over here that the Russians were going to take care of pretty quickly, but these ones here, there's hardly any units in here. And the Americans, they had a floating bridge built, and they were coming over, and the UK were kicking their ass too. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I'll just show you what happened in the game. It was a really interesting game though. When I played, this is only the second time I played, and it was the first time against other people. The first time I played against myself because I wanted to just learn the rules and everything. But I just played a straight up game, no expansion sets. But with these expansion sets, it made it really interesting. I think we've all agreed that the War Plan Z for the Germans is not a good one. That to me, it seems anyway, almost guarantees victory for the Russians. Had the Italians not got Turkey, because we were playing Turkey at war as well, if the Italians hadn't got Turkey here, then the Allies would have been done a long time ago, because Turkey made Italy a big player in this game. Like, Italy was a big deal. They took out 2 British navies in this game, them combined with the Turks. Like the first time it was just them, and the second time it was them combined with Turkey. But the reason that the British couldn't take out the Italian Navy until late in the game here was because their Navy was stuck over here in Great Britain because of that War Plan Z Navy, the big German Navy, right? So they couldn't get down there, so Italy became somewhat of a beast anyway, and Turkey was able to be a real pest in the bottom down here of Russia. Like they just, I think they made it up, I think up to Western Kazakhstan, and they were coming up here as well. So they were a pest to the Russians. So if it wasn't for Turkey, like if Turkey had been controlled by the Russians, for instance, then Russia would have won this game a long time earlier, right? Like they would own Berlin and probably all of Germany and maybe all of Europe if that had been the case, because the Z Navy was never going to threaten the Russians. Like a couple of times they took out this spot, but that's all they could do. They, you know, with 2 transports, all they could do is drop 4 things off, and then the Russians killed them. Drop 4 things off, and then the Russians killed them, right? So there wasn't much that the Navy is going to do against the Russians, because the Russians don't build boats, right? That Navy is specifically to hammer the UK Navy. But I was able to defend myself quite easily against it because I had jet fighters. And even if I didn't have jet fighters, now you look here, there's an air base on London and an air base on Liverpool. And then they both share this sea zone here. You can see right here. So I parked my Navy in this sea zone, and I had six fighter cover over there, like a 6 fighter scramble into there. and 4 of my fighters were jet fighters. I think one of them was on one of the little carriers, and the other 3 were able to scramble. And then of course I had all the fighters as well that could scramble, right? So those jet fighters, like, they roll at 8. That's the same as a battleship. So I'm paying $12 for a fighter, and he's paying a god-awful amount of money for a battleship to roll at the same thing, right? And so, like, it was pretty easy for me to defend against it. All War Plan Z did was keep me from going down to the Med and taking over. So it was effective in that sense against the British and the Allies, really, but it was not effective. Like, the Russians could have beat the shit out of them a long time ago. They could have signed them or not signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and just said screw it and just went after Berlin and went after Turkey. You know, like, they could have got them earlier, but they had signed that pact, and so they weren't allowed to attack them, right? So I think that might have been a minor mistake, but not really. I mean, they still won, but it's easier for them to pick up their victory points, because their victory points are all on the land here. So on the last 2 turns, and he's an experienced player, Moose, so he knew, okay, I need to take this, you know, like, he only needed to take a few territories to get that 6 up there. This is what the 6 is. He needed territories that were outside of Russia. So he was able to get that easily. I think he got the other point for winning the Spanish Civil War over there, right? And that happened early in the game. But yeah, so it's easy for him to pick up that number of points when Britain is down like that. They didn't get any points over here because Japan was the one that got the point over here. And so that's the other thing that kept the Russians off balance. Between Turkey and Japan, they were able to keep the Russians from slaughtering the Germans over there. But like I said, if they didn't get Turkey, if the Allies had got Turkey, or if the Russians had got Turkey, and you all bid on it, right? You all fight over Turkey, and it comes down to the rolls. You know, like, you're trying to roll the dice and trying to get 4 chips, and if you get 4 chips or 4 points or whatever, then you get Turkey. And Turkey is quite powerful in this game. There's a number of units that you get as the Turkish player, and it worked perfectly for the Italians. They were able to control the Med the entire game up until the last turn or 2, when after I had taken out, like, if he'd gone with a Z Navy earlier, I would have slaughtered it earlier. Then I would have taken over the Med earlier, right? But it wasn't until late in the game. And then over here in the Pacific, the Partisans, we played with the Partisan expansion as well. The Partisans just gave the Japanese fits in here in China. Like, you can see the dark brown here, these are communist partisans, and then the green, those are nationalist Chinese partisans, right? So they were just giving them fits all game. And it's the first time that any of us had played with that, but like, we were getting better at it later in the game. Moose and I, he was the one with the dark brown, and I was using the green ones. And we just figured you just count them up. Like, I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I roll 4 dice, and it's kind of like the rules for taking money off of in Axis and Allies. You're just like convoying them. If you can hit a 1 to 3, then you take $1 to $3 off them. So you had a dice for each guy, and he had a dice for each guy, and we just kept nailing them for money. We'd get them down probably $10 each turn between the 2 of us, right? And there's other actions that you can take with them, but we just figured that one in the end was the one that was getting them late in the game. It was, and really what it came down to in the end of the game in the Pacific here was who had more capital ships. Like, it was kind of a big letdown, you know? Like, America didn't get into the war until Sunday morning, for Christ's sakes. We started the game on Friday. So I think that aspect of the game is broken. And here's what I mean. Like, you have to build up your points until you get to 63, right? But and that just depends on what you roll, right? Like, we've adjusted everybody's income to where it was without bonuses on the board here. So America's wartime income is 63. Once you get to 63, then you can go to war. So experienced players, like the two guys that I was playing against, they did everything they could to keep America out of the war. Like Japan did not even complete a capital ship until America was at war, because America would get $1 if you completed the capital ship. I think it was $1. It's a very low amount of money. They do everything they could to not give America any money. And so if America rolled low when they got their D12 rolls starting in 1939, then it could take them forever to get into the war. And then, like, America just got across the water now. Like, how are they supposed to play this game when they're just getting across the water now, right? It doesn't seem right. So what I think is that the broken aspect of that is that the creators of the game, they did a really good job. This is a really, really good game. I like it much more than Axis and Allies. But one of the things that I don't like is that they fixed a time period. So they're saying, okay, that the war ended in mid 1945. So that's when this game ends, is mid 1945. But so they've got a fixed date for that, but they don't have a fixed date as to when the people go to war. So you could keep America out of the war until 1944, and then that's a good way to win the game, because America didn't even participate in the war. That's not how World War II was fought. You know, like, what I think is, okay, you could keep them out of the war as long as you want, if there's no fixed date, but then there should be a number of turns, like whatever that number is, 5 turns, 6 turns, something like that, a number of turns until the end of the game, and then you count up your points. So like if the game ended in mid 42 and you said 5 turns, then it would be 43, 44, like it would end in 1946. It would have gone one more turn in this game. Or if it went 6 turns, then it would have been mid 1946. And then the other thing is Italy. Like in this game, Italy actually declared war, and they went to war fairly early because they had these guys on their side. Like it was just like Italy was a major power right in the middle down here. And so it was no problem for them to go to war. But normally it is a problem. Normally they can just stay there for 3/4 of the game or more and not attack anybody and not declare war on anybody, and then nobody can attack them. And then it's easy for them to go and pick up their points at the end of the game and call them the Axis a winner. So there's no fixed time for them. There's no fixed time for bringing the Americans into the war, and yet there's a fixed time for the end of the game. So that's a broken aspect of the game that can be fixed, I think. Like I said, like give them a little bit of grace, though. Like, you don't say, okay, well, the Italians entered the war on this date, so they got to enter the war on this date in this game. Like, give them another year if you want. Like 2 more turns, then Italy has to be at war. If they don't go to war, then anybody can declare war on them. In America, like you can either, if you want to end the game in 1945, say fine, like we can have as much as a year behind when they did enter the war, but there's none of this bullshit of wait until 1943 or 1944 to bring America into the war, because that that's just not how it was done, right? Like the American player wanted to be in the war, so why couldn't they, right? Well, just because of the rules the way they are. And they're good rules, like I said, but it needs to be tweaked just a little bit as far as I'm concerned. And I'll do, I only have one more video to make on my series about how to play this game. So I think I'll wait till then to break down this game as far as the points go. The one video that I hadn't made is the victory points, and I was going to make it a week ago. Like I was going to make it last weekend, the week before this game. And I thought, you know what, why don't I just wait, because I had the opening set up, right? Why don't I wait till the end of this game, and I didn't know how it was going to end. Then I would have how the game ended, and then it would be easier to illustrate to you. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how all those points were made up there, and how they could have been made. And then to show you how the victory conditions work in this game. One of the things that I thought I'd gained a point for, I thought that the Allies would get a point for having twice as many capital ships in the Mediterranean as the Italians did. And it turns out it had to be the British that had to have twice as many capital ships. So I screwed up on that one. So these are the kind of things that I could get better at, right? And just knowing the rules. So like this carrier that's sitting here, if I'd have sailed that carrier over with this battleship over there, then America would have got a point. By putting that battleship there, they tied the number of battleships in the Pacific with Japan, because Japan had this Yamamoto battleship here. So if the Americans had sailed that thing over there instead of into the Mediterranean thinking they could get a point there, then they would have got their point over there, right? So you really got to know, if you're going to play those victory conditions, you really got to know how to get your points. And Moose, he knew on the last 2 turns of the game, he knew exactly what he needed to do up there, right? I need a bunch of these little territories, and he took a bunch of them. His last turn took quite a while because he attacked like must have been 10 different places or more on his last turn, right? So he did a good job, and everybody had a good game. Everybody played really well. The one mistake that was done was playing with War Plan Z, but it's not really his fault though. Like, we all wanted to know if that one would be any good. Him and I had talked about it on the phone before they even came to Prince George, and I had bought those ships from Shapeways, and I wanted to see what it was going to be like, and he wanted to see what it was going to be like. So he kind of committed himself to playing it, even though we kind of thought maybe it wasn't a good idea. So kudos to him for having the courage to do that and to play with that thing. Now that could be tweaked as well. Like and we talked about that after the game, as tired as we were. Like it makes you build too many ships. You know what I mean? Like, you had to build a shit ton of boats that you weren't going to need. Like all kinds of destroyers and torpedo boat destroyers and submarines, and you know, like it would have been great if you could have just built, you know, like half that many ships and got just a little bit of a deal on it. And you know, like you wouldn't have gotten as powerful as the British Navy, but you would have had a navy. You know what I mean? And it depends. Like, if the player hadn't played the British Navy as well as I did, then they could have done something too. One of the things that was a help to me was that when France fell and we rolled for the French ships, I got 6 French boats out of it. That doesn't always happen, right? Like, you roll to see, does Free France get the ships? Does Vichy France get the ships? Or the ship scuttle? Or do the Germans get them? And it so happened I got most of them. And so that was a big help. I just threw them in with the British Navy, and there was my cannon fodder. And, you know, not pretty good cannon fodder when you consider, like, there was a cruiser in there and, you know, a couple of destroyers. You know, those are nothing to sneeze at, right? And there was a sub in there, like, that helped out too, right? But War Plan Z could be good if it was tweaked a little bit. I think it just went a little bit overboard, you know, like too many boats in there. You're committed to spending too much money, and when you're spending that much money, like I said earlier, I think it just guarantees that the Russian player is going to win the game, because the Russian player isn't going to play with boats. The Russian player is just going to steam right through to Berlin. If it wasn't for Turkey, then that's probably what would have happened. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this series. I know you probably didn't enjoy it as much as we enjoyed playing it. I tell you, we had a really good time. We had lots of laughs. We were joking around all the time, but yet we were quite serious about playing the game and playing it well. You know, like playing it at our best. So we took the game seriously, but we didn't take each other seriously. Let's put it that way. We were very cordial to each other, but we had a lot of fun. And I made a couple of new friends, and I'm really grateful for that. Someday I'm gonna head over there and play on his table, on Ray Carcass's table, because that's how much I enjoyed playing a game with those guys. And if you're out there and you want to play this game and you have a way to get to Prince George, then you're welcome to come up and challenge me too. I tell you though, it's better if we have 3 players though, because the 3-player dynamic was at least 5 times better than a 2-player dynamic. Because when I was playing that one game, that first game against myself, I didn't care who won the game between the Allies and the Comintern, the Russians. Like, it just didn't matter to me, right? It matters to people when there's 3 different teams. The Russians want to win the game. The Allies want to win the game. You know, like well, I wanted to go into Turkey, but I couldn't. Until Berlin falls, you can't attack each other, right? But so I closed off the Middle East to him, and he closed off Turkey to me, right? And like, I would have loved to have taken this one up. This could have got another point for my side if this roundel here didn't exist. If I could have just stepped on there, that would have been fine. But that's attacking the Russians, so I couldn't do it, right? But the Russians could have, like, if you were on the same team, then maybe they do something to help each other out, right? To help get each other points or whatever. Just so you can beat the other guy, like if there's only 2 people, right? But with 3 people, then 3 people are trying to beat each other. And we you know, like, we were trying to get, no, you don't want to attack me, you want to attack him. And you say why? Like, it's kind of like a game of Risk, if you ever played that. No, this guy's tougher than me. This is the guy you got to worry about, right? You know, so there was a lot of that going on. And so a 3-player game made for a really, really interesting dynamic. Much more interesting than Axis and Allies. You know, in Axis and Allies, it's just one side versus the other. And I love that game. It's a great game. Don't get me wrong. Until I played this one, I thought Global 40 was the best game ever made. But I think this one's better. Like everybody that plays every game, though, I think it could be tweaked a little bit. The victory conditions especially. What I didn't like about the victory conditions more than anything is that it's... And I said this after my first game that I played against myself there, that it doesn't make much sense. Like, why would the Americans just sail a carrier into here for no reason? Or why would they have sailed that battleship back there, you know, when what they needed to do was keep hammering the Germans, right? Like, they didn't even bother bringing any more transports across because they knew exactly when the war was going to end. You know, what's the point in loading up your transports and going across when you knew that you couldn't use those guys? Instead, they were buying all these boats and trying to kill that Yamato, right? That's not how it would have been done in the war. So, that's going on all over the game, all over the board. You know, like, you get a point for this or a point for that, and those points don't always make sense. Like this one here, that makes sense. I try to have twice as much as the other guy, you know, along the border. You know, okay, well, that means something. You know, like there's that border means something, sure, you know, but, you know, have twice as many capital ships. Like, if I ever play this game again as the American player, I'm just going to, down here on this thing here, I'm going to see how many capital ships the Japanese player has, and then I'm going to make sure that I place whatever I need, like 2 capital ships on the last turn, right? So you start building it with that many turns left, whatever you need, 2, 3 capital ships. You're not going to use them all. Nobody can kill them because you're the last player to go in the turn order. So boom, you put your 2, your 3 capital ships on. You got a point. You just beat the Japanese. You know, like, how does that work, right? So, like I said, that's the victory conditions is something that is a little odd. I mean, I feel their pain, like when they were trying to come up with how do you win this game. You got to find some way of doing it, some way of ending the game, because in a 3-player game, I don't see how Russia wins this game if you played until it's gone, right? Like, I don't think the Russians could stand up to the Allies if the Axis were out of the game, and vice versa. I don't think that the Russians could stand up to the Axis if all the Allies were out of the game. Like, you had to find some way of doing the victory conditions. It just kind of makes the game kind of wonky in the last couple of turns when all you're doing is trying to play to the points, you know. They didn't make much sense. The points didn't make much sense. So anyway, that's me on my soapbox. Well, I'll give it some thought, see if there's some kind of house rules that I want to do, or maybe I could even, if I do come up with something that is better than that, maybe I can suggest it to them, just like anybody can. It is pretty good, though. I mean, it's not the worst. It's just they had to have some way to decide the game, and that's what they did. So I will make a video by this weekend. I don't know if it'll be this week. I might wait till the weekend, and it'll be on the victory conditions and how to achieve them. I'll go through all of the victory conditions for all of the nations and show you what you need to do, and I will leave these pieces set up on the board and show you how all of those points were gained up there, and how it was that the Russians won the game, and how I came in last when clearly I was going to kick these guys' asses. No, I'm kidding. They were really good players, and I tell you, I'm a better player now after having played them. So I have the other apology I have to give to you is that I haven't made my video saying who the winner was of the prizes for that I had for my 1,000 video, my 1,000 subscribers. I was going to do that last week, and then I was so busy getting ready for these guys coming to town that I didn't get to it. And then when they were here on the weekend, I couldn't do it then, because we played literally from Friday afternoon till late Sunday night. All we stopped for was to eat and to sleep, and that was it. So I had no time to make that video, and I will make it hopefully tonight. Hopefully later tonight it will be out, and you will find out who the winners are. So I hope you enjoyed this series as much as we did. Take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.